you get all these comments? I didn't even see.
Uh-oh. I keep getting kicked off. I'm back. Yeah, as soon as we get people signing on, we finally get in a roll, and then all of a sudden, the internet kicks us off or something happens. So
It might be better with a phone, but
it might be, yeah, because then if the internet's bad, the phone can pick up the service.
Our internet's great.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It has a hiccup, or there's too many people logged on, or we have some company. My parents are in town tonight, so anyway, I've been babbling long enough. If anybody got some comments, I should talk along. Kevin and Ken, all my friends who start with the name K. So anywho, and again, I don't want to just come up here and shit on Trump. I really don't. That is not my goal in life. As a comedian, it's just a really easy target, though. Trump says stuff every day that you just have to say, anyone else, like, he's just got this group of people fired up that he could say pretty much anything. And anyone else who has said anything remotely ridiculous of the things he said has been crucified politically in the past. No one else could get away. Mostly because those people believe in stuff publicly, right? They come out and say that they're this or that. The good thing, I guess, maybe because Trump, you can't call him a hypocrite because he doesn't believe in anything, right? He changes what he says every day. He's not a flip-flopper. Nothing that comes out of his mouth can be considered truth, or you can't talk today in terms of what Trump said yesterday. Now, that is good if you don't want to be tied down to something that you can be called a flip-flopper on, but how can we as America say, oh, I'm voting for Trump because he represents this? Because as far as I can see, he represents, now, not everybody, I'm not saying all Republicans are this, but I'm saying what Trump really represents is it's okay for all the assholes and morons of America to be bigger assholes and bigger idiots in public and say whatever they're going to say and do whatever they're going to do, and say it's okay to be racist and homophobic and sexist and everything else, anti-Semitic, who knows. It's okay to be that stuff because it's America and we're free, right? Like the perversion of the American dream. It's getting worse and worse and worse because Trump is the leader of shit. And people coming out of the woodworks saying and doing anything, right? And his comments on almost anything. And I used to like Trump. I was actually, when it first started out, I was like, I was kind of like, not drinking the Kool-Aid, but I was like, I'm going to give him a chance. I don't like anybody else in that Republican field for the most part. Maybe Jeb Bush, but he was, he was low energy, but he was too soft. He couldn't take down, and all the money from DC's behind him. Like, you want to not want to like him, right? John Kasich, it's like, he seems like an okay guy. He could have been good, but it's like very, very local. He didn't have the gravitas. That was pretty much nobody had the gravitas. If anybody in the Republican field had gravitas, it was Donald Trump. But it's such a false gravitas. You know what I mean? So it's like a baseless, classless gravitas. It's a strange mix of things. So, and of course, Hillary doesn't look like any president we've ever had. But what did he say there? People don't like politicians. Yeah.
No, the next one.
What is that? Is that a piece of poop? What is that?
It's an eggplant.
It's an eggplant. Oh, okay.
But it looks like balls.
Because he's an outsider. Is he an outsider, though? I mean, the only difference between Hillary and Donald Trump...
He's not a politician. They don't want politics.
He's not a politician, but he also knows nothing about domestic or foreign policy. He has zero knowledge. The only thing he does know is how to squeeze the system and not pay taxes. And basically, like I said, he goes to Cuba and does business in Cuba when it's illegal to do so, and then hides it through the foundation, right? All these other things he hid through the foundation, bribes to the Florida Attorney General so that she wouldn't prosecute him for Trump U. Pretty much, what Trump U means now. But, yeah, so that's where we are. I'm looking. I was going into Monday. I said before the debate, I am looking for a reason to not vote for Hillary Clinton because I don't love Hillary. I'm not saying I don't hate her for the as much as the crazies do, or I don't. But again, people, for everyone that says, I've talked to 4 people today all around the city that brought up, well, hey, what's up, Mike? 4 people that come up and say, well, Hillary is corrupt. Hillary has done this. Hillary's done that. So, and then they said 4 things that they think she did that she's been accused of doing by the alt-right, but has yet to be, nothing has come up that says, yeah, she's definitely done this, right? Has never been prosecuted. Now, you could say that's because of corruption, and it could be. I'm not saying she's perfect. I'm not saying she's not corrupt. I'm just saying there are allegations being thrown at her when, at the same time, Trump's own words and deeds, that things everybody knows he did. He says he did it, and then he says, oh, yeah, I did tweet about that. Oh, yeah, I did say that. He doesn't take it seriously because he doesn't believe what he says should be taken seriously. Like, everybody else believes what they says. He doesn't. He just says shit that comes to his mind. It doesn't matter what he thinks or what really believes because he changes that daily. So why should he be held accountable? So I will say, and I've said this to 3 people today. What is that? Now he is saying Miss Universe. He saved Miss Universe and being fried. Yeah, he's the hero. He's putting himself up as the hero. Donald Trump's a joke. I'm sorry. All the stuff, his performance Monday night was despicable because he doesn't know anything. It's not a matter of preparing. He cannot prepare because he doesn't have the foundation of knowledge to prepare for a debate to be president. And knowing that, he clearly didn't do enough preparation. The whole idea, you do the primaries, and then you do the debates, and you go through this whole process so that when you finally walk in there in January, or even by the time you get to your transition team in November, getting ready for January, you are ready to hear what you need to hear to become president. But you have this foundation of knowledge, right? Frank Bruni on MSNBC, and he's a Republican guy, but he's a communist. But he said it really well. It was his words. Does not have the foundation of knowledge. Like, it's not like he can, I think it's 10 days from now, they have another debate. He doesn't have the foundation of knowledge to prepare for the next debate. He can go in with some zingers and some one-liners, but if she says XYZ, he does not know enough to process, to really debate in the moment. He can tweet 3 days later some witty repartee by his standards, but he does not have the foundation of knowledge to even debate Hillary Clinton, let alone be a better president. And he snuck through the Republican primary, so he was never tested. He was never tested in the Republican primary on his knowledge because he was an outsider. We could say he's an outsider. We can proclaim, yay, let's have an outsider. But an outsider who knows zip. There are outsiders like college professors or... R's on there? Yeah. Hey, what's up, R? I didn't see that yet. There are outsiders that have knowledge. There are outsiders that are not narcissistic douchebags. I'm sorry. This guy is not right for our country. And I'm not saying this as some crazy liberal. I'm the centrist. I'm the idealistically centrist person that is not a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. I'm all over the map. But my gut is telling me that we are screwed with this guy. And every argument that I've heard anybody make for Trump, I can poke holes in. Every Hillary that most people have said against Hillary, I can poke holes in. Now, if you're really that scared about the Supreme Court being too liberal, I get it. Uh-oh. I think his success should tell us all how disenfranchised with the entire system people are because he is horrific. Yes. Oh, hey, what's up, Mike? Wow, my favorite drummer. Wow. So, 100%. And that's exactly what I think. And that's why he's successful. I mean, the problem is, but you know what? You could say the exact same thing in the late 20s, going into the 30s, about Adolf Hitler. I'm not saying Trump is Hitler. I'm not saying Trump is, I'm having a Gary Johnson moment. brain fart with another situation, but all those situations where we're in the exact same place, and then the false prophet comes in and just destroys the world as we know it, right? America, but at the same time, we're not as bad off. The people that are like Trump supporters, they're complaining because it's not like it was in the 50s. We're still the richest country in the world. We fucked Germany after World War I, right? We created isolationism. We isolated ourselves. We had this whole thing after World War I where we made Germany pay for what they did in World War I. We left Germany in a place where if somebody didn't pull them out of the hole, they were just going to burn anyway, you know? And so, like, it was even worse. We're not as bad off as people think we are. If you look at us compared to the rest of the world, the whole world was screwed over by the banks in 2008. We've recovered better than anybody else because of the system we have, the checks and balances, because we don't have Russian oligarchs taking all the money. As much as we have a problem with people like Wells Fargo banking $200 million a year off of stock profits while firing 5,000 people for following their orders, right? We have some shitty situations, but we're still better off than anyone else in the world right now as far as recovery. You might say one or two countries have a better GPD. You might have one or two countries that are better off health-wise with their health care. One or two countries might have a better school system. We're not the number one of every list, but the balance, we're pretty good. And, there are smaller countries that have far less people to deal with that might be floating by a little bit. But if you go to England with Brexit, this trend is a lot of places. But we're not as bad off as England as far as the people and the education. I'm sorry, I just drove through England in May. Outside of London, there's some dumb idiots. I'm sorry. There's a whole bus full of high school students that I thought the things that were coming out of their mouth, I thought I was at a Klan rally, like in the middle of Arkansas. No joke. I was just reading up on the whole history. There was a documentary on Netflix, maybe a whole thing about the start of the witch trials in Holland and England. Like we always talk about Salem, but like we got it from them. So it's like we didn't invent this alt-right crazy racist crowd. Like they came from Europe. Like there's still some of them in Europe. I know. Jobs are bad, but again, it's like it's bad. The bigger problem, but like the things that Donald Trump are talking about is not going to fix it. It's going to make it worse. Donald Trump and all his cronies, it's like Donald Trump basically was not succeeding in buying off to make his 1% value go up. He decided, screw it, I'm just going to run for president myself because all the people I'm trying to buy off are not doing what I need them to do. So he skipped the middleman, he skipped the politician, and he was brilliant. He came in. The only brilliant thing he's done is he's reached out to the crazies to create the fever and basically said, I'm going to be your champion. And you're right, Mike said, they're so disenfranchised. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. And what's the other? It's not about how bad off we are, though, right? It's about how much people hate politicians, but it's like they think what is very true. The recovery in the last 6 years, 8 years since '08, has not been there for everybody, right? How many people have not? I can't see everybody. The long comments. It says click see more, and then it makes it difficult for me to see it. But so much because of the bullshit that he is the antithesis of that. And people, right. Well, that is what I'm saying. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I'm not seeing all the comments, but I think, but you know what though? I really do believe there's a perception that that we are, and what Trump has said, but what Trump says, he just takes right from what a lot of supporters says, right? He's just repeating a lot of the alt-right stuff. But where he does say, like, we're a third world country. Well, I'm sorry. Here, 15 grand is below 15 grand is poverty. But if you're making 15 grand worldwide, you're in the top 6.5% income-wise. If you're making 10%, $10,000 a year, which qualifies you for Medicaid, paying zero taxes, yada yada. You're in the top 16% of the entire world. So as bad off as we are, like if you're making $10,000 out of 8 billion people, there's 6.5 billion people that make less money than you in the world, right? If you're just making $10,000. And now we live in a world where $10,000 doesn't go that far. Maybe $1 a day working in China can buy you enough rice to not starve. But you're still living in like the factory cities and cooking rice in like a dormitory, smaller than what the Navy lives in on a ship. And but you're absolutely right. And it is the insanity, though. The insanity is trumped up, so to speak. No pun intended. Is trumped up by the extremists, and it all started. It did start, but the whole thing, the people that really can't stand having a black president, the whole birther thing, the people from day one in the entire Republican Party, whether it was racist or not, it wasn't all racist, but the Republican Party meeting Newt Gingrich and all those guys in Congress and Senate and everybody getting together says, what are we going to do today, the day after the elections in 2008? What are we doing today to make sure we get rid of him by 2012? They failed, but they methodically went after him on every little thing. They try to do to him what they did to the Clintons, but he's not the Clintons. Like, he doesn't have the problems the Clintons have. Clintons are far from perfect. The Clintons, do stuff that make themselves, whether it's true or not, nothing's been proven. He is an evil genius, that's right. But the lowest common denominator, I think, is where you get it. And we're the lowest common denominator, and I don't know how you guys feel, as a musician in the 80s, we were talking about lowest common denominator in television and entertainment, right? Broadway shows catering to lowest common denominator. Donald Trump is TV. He brings the lowest common denominator, reality TV, of the entertainment world to politics. And you're absolutely correct. It's the easy message. Anybody with half a brain that listens. Now, I know a lot of people I love and respect that are very, very smart. And they bought into the Kool-Aid. And because they're not really listening to everything he says. They don't follow it that closely. I honestly believe if you sat there and watched the entire debate Monday night, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I grew up in a Republican household, but I'm not somebody who, like, in high school said, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I was a Republican pretty much to fairly recent. Again, I voted for Bush twice. Voted for Perot twice, Bush twice, Obama twice. I'm all over the spectrum. I'm not idealistically left or right. I go with, the lesser of two evils more often than not. I don't think we can afford a protest vote of Gary Johnson. We can't afford to do what we did in the 90s because the two people that were there, Bush and Clinton, or Clinton and Bob Dole, I think either one of them, whether you like them or not, would have been okay as president. I always said, up until this year, it doesn't matter who wins. It really doesn't matter who wins. It's more of an issue who wins compared to who's in Congress right now, right? This Congress, with Donald Trump as president, might destroy the country. I don't think it matters if it was Donald Trump and a Democratic Congress. He'd be held, and they would be held. This Congress with any Republican president scares me. The Republican Congress is so far right now that they really could take our country back in the worst possible way. So yada yada yada. So if nothing else, that's why I'm for Hillary. That's why I voted for Obama in 2012. In 2008, it was much more of we need major change. There's more Sarah Palin. Let's be real. Sarah Palin made me say, "There's no way we can vote for that ticket." I like John McCain, and then John McCain again. John McCain's the guy that when people said Obama is not born here, but John McCain lost almost lost their primary, but John McCain lost a big part of what he was doing, a lot of his support, because he scolded the alt-right folks. He scolded them. He said, no. Hey, what's up, Wendy? He got on there and said, no, we're not going to engage in that rhetoric. And he was fried for it in the extreme right media, right? TV, radio, his own party, not his party, but the extremists that the Republican Party, the reason I wasn't Republican and still not, the reason I'm not a Democrat is the number of Democrats that say all Republicans are racist. It's not true. It's not true. 20%, 30% tops are blatant alt-right racists, right? The 21% that thought Donald Trump won the debate on Monday, 20% of them are the outright alt-right racists, bigots of the country, thought that Donald Trump won because he's still giving them a voice. And then the 1% is all the 1%ers that, the non-99%ers that need their money, that need their inheritances, they need their, to be taxed, their capital gains not be taxed as income because they're making billions. And they're people like the people from Wells Fargo that pocket $200 million while firing 5,000 low-level people for just following orders, right? Those are the people that are very much pro-Donald Trump. Of that 1%. The other 20% are the outright racists from around the country. Those are the 21%. 26% not affected. 51 to 53%, whatever it was, thought, and this is the SurveyMonkey poll that they say is really accurate because it's such a huge nationwide sample. And they do so many things. It's all online, but they really make sure nobody votes twice and all this stuff. Yada, yada. Hey, what's up, Brett? So, yeah. And again, Donald Trump goes out and says it was Lester Holt, who is a Republican, by the way, not a Democrat. But apparently he's part of the liberal media because he's NBC. So they all lie. So, of course, it was fixed. And then it was because Hillary Clinton was mean for bringing up things he said and done. And he's the one who's interrupting her left and right. She sat there and let him go. Because, you know what, Donald? And Lester did the same thing. He said, he asked me some really hard questions. And now he's George Bush, right? It's hard. It's a hard process. It's supposed to be hard. It's the hardest goddamn job in the fucking world, and it's supposed to be. And clearly you're not ready to do it. So, that's all I've got to say. I've been babbling for a while here. And thanks for all the comments. You guys are awesome. This is fun. I really enjoy coming on here because Luis basically told me a week ago you need to do this every night because I'm just tweeting up and really spamming people on Twitter. So at least here you got the choice to listen to me spew some ideas. But I also like going everywhere, just like getting very passionate about this like I've never had before. I've never been so impassioned. And it's much more anti-Trump than pro-Hillary. But, I listen to Hillary, I'm like, I don't agree with everything she says, but she's got an idea, a plan for just about everything. And we have a Republican Congress. So if I vote for Hillary, if we all vote for Hillary, the stuff that is too far left that would bankrupt us, this Congress isn't going to let it happen anyway. So that's not a problem. We might have 4 years more of nothing happening. But that's not the worst thing in the world. I still say we all did well in the 90s. It's not because Clinton was great. It's not because the Republican Congress. They both take credit for all the success in the 90s. It's because at the time, they fought all the time. But not like now. Now they fight and never listen. Back then they listened, and then every once in a while they'd say, I do agree with that. Let's do that. And a couple things happened, right? But leaving us alone, because it really doesn't matter to you day to day who was in the White House. Over the long course of time, maybe. It's much more of the combination these days of who's in Congress and who's in the White House. That combination is what really determines what happens in this country. Not the House by themselves, not the Senate by themselves. It's a wonderful system. And, you can say what you want about the next justice being too liberal, too left, too right. We have this system that keeps any one person that radically destroying the country until you let one party that is incredibly infected by radicalism right now. I was a Republican for a long time because the Democrats were radically left for a long time. You know, the environmental type terrorists, right? The extremists on the left side that I thought were just, you know, the one issue people. You know, they're only for gun control. And those people did want to take people's guns away. Not the party, but there were gun control people that wanted to take everybody's guns away. That's not what the Democratic Party wants to do. That's not what Hillary wants to do. Get that out of your heads. But those single issue people, and then slowly, one by one, the single issue pro-lifers came in and dominated the Republican Party. The single issue lower taxes, right? And now you have 3 or 4 factions of single issue types in the Republican Party. And right now, because they're divided, it's the crazies, the Tea Party people that are sneaking in. The crazies, the alt-right, are going to push the Tea Party out, and it's going to get crazier. That Congress, with any Republican president, I don't care who it is, it scares the crap out of me. What they want to do, if you don't go downtown in a city or anywhere, you know, that isn't like bumfuck Idaho. Idaho is actually not too bad. That's a bad, but Utah, Arkansas, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying those places are bad, but there are people, you know, that want it a certain way for everybody. And I'm saying, no, I don't want to dictate to you that, you know, I'm not going to say to you that you have to be a nice person to everybody. You don't have to love black people, Latin people, your own relations that are women. You can be a douchebag, but don't be a douchebag and tell the person living over here that they have to believe what you believe. They have to do what you want to do. Because we are in a free country. It was supposed to be religious freedom. You know, you should be able to do whatever you do. But that doesn't mean if you have a public business that you can discriminate against somebody because you're a motherfucker, a hateful person, right? And you hide behind religion and call it religious freedom. Being a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a misogynist, a homophobic. Sorry. That doesn't fly with me. The same people, the evangelicals that claim I'm not Christian because I'm Catholic. Sorry. Yeah, it doesn't fly with me. And that's where a lot of you lost me. I was on your side. I was, you know, on your side for a lot of this stuff until you got stupid. You used to be just like, you smiled and said, hey, come get some pie because you're white. And that was the subtext. You know, I didn't realize both sides of it. And then I got to know a lot of folks and people I thought were good. They were friends. And I had a guy at a bar and said one day, literally, this dad was working at Hamburger Hamlet in Gaithersburg. And we went to the bar and he says, well, you know, black people are inferior. I'm like, wait, what? What? Wait. Where did this come from? Yeah, I mean, like, you know, anatomically and mentally, and their brains, blah, 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 blah. No shit. I mean, this is like one of the first times I've really face-to-face was confronted by an outright moron, a racist moron, and basically trying to use science. Probably the same people that use science to say that there is no global warming. You know, the pseudoscience. And he wasn't a religious guy. He came out of nowhere. We hung out. We were working as waiters, and we just went to the bar one night. He says, "Well, you know," and I thought he was fucking with me. I don't think I ever talked to the guy again. It really ruined me for a little bit because I was like, you know, I've heard all these people talking about racism still exists. I was one of those guys who's like, I don't see racism. Where we grew up, there were supposed to be these racist fights in our high school. I never saw that stuff. There were apparently skinheads and gangs like in the fringe in our neighborhoods. Like they were starting to come in. And like, I never saw that stuff. And they were like, you know, skinheads and picking fights with black people and blah, 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 blah. I was sheltered, but like, this was happening in my school. Like it was around, and I was in all honors classes. Maybe it was in a different part of the building. I mean, we had 2,000 students, but there were things I knew were going on. I heard stories about. I know the year after me, the honors kids became the drug dealers. You know, the kids from my school, all of a sudden, there was like this whole group of these kids from Laytonsville Elementary that were dealing drugs, and like the high white collar kids all of a sudden became like, they thought it was cool, a lot of drugs coming in, but that came in the year after me. I'm not saying people I knew didn't do drugs. I heard stories, but I was not a party guy back then. I had a lot of fun. We drank, got liquor and partied crazy. I thought we were having a good time, but apparently they were much crazier. But who knows? But I never saw this stuff. And then again, this is after college or late in college, where I'm working as a waiter, already becoming an actor. And I was just flabbergasted. I was dumbfounded that somebody I knew was thinking this stuff, and he was just looking for somebody to say, "Oh, I've been thinking the same. I'm with you. You're absolutely right." And I think there's people out there, and all of a sudden Donald Trump comes along, and there's people like this guy that have been just walking among us. Not a high percentage, 10, 20% tops of all the white people total. Tops. But the problem is, if you go back to 64, they left the Democratic Party, they came to the Republican Party, those types, right? The LBJ thing. They ran from the Democrats, they fled to the Republicans, and Republicans have been running away in public from the racism card, from being racist, but at the same time have given them a home and kept the power using their vote. I don't think Ronald Reagan is half the racist that a lot of people tell me, my Democratic friends. Being an actor surrounded by liberals every day, Ronald Reagan was such a racist. Ronald Reagan Bob was this. I don't know, maybe not. But he clearly, Ronald Reagan came in and swept in, probably a bad example because he had such a high percentage of the vote, right? Donald Trump is no Ronald Reagan, right? It's almost like the old Kennedy line with George Bush's boy, Dan Quayle. He was no Kennedy. Donald Trump is not Ronald Reagan. At least Ronald Reagan was an actor, right? Donald Trump is reality TV. He's a bad actor, and he would be a bad actor. We're talking about all the bad actors from Syria and all these other countries. We would all of a sudden be the home of the bad actor, doing stuff that we don't know what he's doing. I'm going on. I'm just like, please. And we had a little discussion with a couple people again the other day about if enough of us rose up for Gary Johnson, but clearly he's not the right choice either. The only one that we have left that has half a clue about how this country's supposed to run is Hillary Clinton. Period. And again, if Donald Trump put a better team around him, Donald Trump is doubling down on his alt-right crowd friends. It's bad enough he put Breitbart as CEO of his campaign. The guy that's going to be the the environmental EPA guy is a climate denier. He doesn't believe in global warming. All these people he's talking about, the people he's finally naming who he would bring in, the judges that he would put on the Supreme Court that are so crazy alt-right. We got to bring the country back to the center on both sides. And Hillary's more center than Obama. Hillary is more hawkish than Obama. Hillary, I do believe, when they crossed the red line in Syria, would have sent some bombs over. Because that's the Clinton way. We bomb stuff. Because if nothing else, because the emails are coming out, and we have to distract from the emails, right? So worst case scenario, they get hawkish when they're trying to distract from their own scandals. And when they bombed all those trucks of aid workers a week ago, she would have retaliated with something right away. Would have sent something. A small, warning shot across the bow, but not necessarily troops on the ground. We're sending 600 troops now so we can take Mosul back. But I don't even think Donald Trump knows what Mosul is because he doesn't watch real news. Yada, yada, yada. I'm done. I'm talking. I'm having a good night. You guys have a good night. Hey, it's been an hour on and off with stops and starts. And comment, send me some messages. Hey, if you have any requests for what you want me to talk about, send them over. Email me, Facebook me, find me on Twitter, @Walt Frazier on Twitter, and we'll have a good time. Have a good night, everybody.